Hey everyone, how you doing? So we are going to delve into some of the most incredibly deep topics right now. We're going to delve into topics about the creation of the world, about Adam Harishon, about Hevel and Kayin, the story of Purim, and it's going to be incredible. But I want to frame it with some existential questions. When you read a novel, you watch a great story, a great film, every single person who is in the process of experiencing a great story, we always find ourselves identifying as the main character in the story. And the question I want to ask you is why? Why do we always identify as the main character? We can't all be the main characters of the story of life, right? So why do we always find ourselves wanting to be the hero of the story? And I think another layer of that question is, why do we often find ourselves dreaming about our role models? Right? We find ourselves wanting to be so deeply like the people that we like. We have this ideal of this person in our life who just we admire and we want to be like them. And the question is why? And the deeper question is, what's the ideal relationship between us and our role models, the people we admire? Is that a good thing? Is that something that fundamentally is a flaw that should be overcome? How do you relate to the concept of an ideal? So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about some of the most incredible topics. And I want to really delve into the story of Hevel and Kayin. It's one of the most underrated, unspoken about topics. It's kind of just a couple lines in Parshas Bereishis. And the essence of that entire story, the essence of the story of Hevel and Kayin is really the story, even though we think the story is Adam Harishon. So in order to understand the story of Hevel and Kayin, we have to briefly unwrap the story of Adam Harishon, which is really the story of Purim. And Chazal actually say that the essence of the story of Purim is the essence of Haman, and Haman actually originates from Hamin Ha'etz, when Hashem responds to Adam after the sin, saying, "Did you eat from the tree?" So it's an endless topic. It's a topic that would take literally hundreds of hours, hundreds of lectures, hundreds of serum to talk about. But the essence of the story is the answer to a question, which is, why would Adam eat from the Eitz Hadas? What was going on there? Why would you do that? So Chazal, our sages talk about Adam before eating from the Eitz Hadas as being literally in a state of perfection. Chazal say that the essence of that state was equivalent literally to Hashem, as in Malachim looked at Adam and confused him with Hashem. That's what the Midrashim say. So if we're talking about someone who's literally perfect, why would you eat from the Eitz Hadas? So the way that Rav Dessler and many of the Baalei Machshava talk about that sin is actually in Avera Lishma. It's a very deep topic, which is that if you're perfect, why would you sin? How could you sin? And the answer is that there's different types of perfection. There's being perfect, and there's becoming perfect. And one who is perfect has no room to grow. And as the Ramchal explains, what was the purpose of creating the world? Why do we exist? What's the purpose of anything? So there's different layers of the expression of the answer to that question. It's the most fundamental question one can ever ask. And the two aspects of the purpose of creation was to reveal truth, was to reveal the story, the unfolding of truth. But a part of that was for Hashem to give us the ultimate good, which is the ability to connect to the ultimate good, which is the ability to connect to Hashem. And the way to connect to Hashem and the ultimate good is to become like Hashem. You can only relate to that which you are like. So you can't have an intimate relationship with a rock because you're very dissimilar from a rock, but you could have an intimate relationship with someone who's very much like you. And the way for us to become able to connect to truth and to the ultimate good and to Hashem in the deepest possible way is for us to become like Hashem in the deepest possible way. And that's the essence of the sin. Is that Hashem told Adam not to eat from the Eitz Hadas. As the Rambam explains, the essence of eating from the Eitz Hadas is to fall into a world of lowering yourself from perfection to imperfection, where you become someone who struggles with free will and struggles between good and evil and struggles to become perfect. So why would Adam do that? Because Adam faced a very fundamental question. Do I stay perfect? And therefore my journey towards becoming closer to Hashem is so small. And literally all Hashem tells Adam is don't eat from the Eitz Hadas. As in maintain your status of perfection, and your struggle is not to enter into the world of struggle. But Adam said, if I eat from the Eitz Hadas, I'll become human. I'll become someone who not only has to struggle with one tiny, infinitesimal struggle of not eating from the Eitz Hadas, but I'll become so limited that I'll have to journey back towards perfection. And that would be the ultimate way to grow close to Hashem. To live a life of truth is to have to actually figure out the truth. As the Rambam says, Adam originally was in a realm of truth, and then once he ate from the Eitz Hadas, he went to a realm of having to choose between good and evil. So it's no longer true or false, but everything's complicated, fragmented, two-ness, everything's complicated. It's the world we live in. So Adam's sin was actually entering into a world of sin. As in he went from a state of perfection to imperfection so he can become perfect. And that's the most fundamental turning point in reality, and it's something which you can ponder for all eternity, is that decision and the why and the purpose of it, and was it a mistake? And of course it was a mistake, but could there have been a version where he didn't eat from the Eitz Hadas, and would we exist? And all of existence stems from bringing oneness into two-ness and bringing that state of being in Gan Eden to our current state. But that's the story of life. And that's really the essence of Purim, because once Adam sins, we became imperfect. And that's why Adam was now embarrassed, because our bodies became physical. So all of a sudden you're embarrassed to be naked because your body is no longer angelically luminescent and transcendent. The whole world fell. So, when you die, you go to Olam HaNeshamos. Adam's original body was in Olam HaNeshamos, Gan Eden, which means that everything became more physical. So Adam's body was originally spiritual, and now it's physical. He was originally, his spiritual was on a higher level, as in his physical was on the level of our spiritual. So that means that his new spiritual was on the level of his old physical, meaning everything got lowered one level. So if you understand what that means, all of a sudden there's confusion, there's chaos, I don't know who I am. It's like when you're born into this world, you don't know who you are. It takes years and years to develop consciousness and higher level consciousness, self-awareness, intellectual development. So Adam went from that state of perfection to being born into fragmentation. And that's where Hashem says Hamin Ha'etz, which is Haman, which is Purim, which is Amalek, which is what? Which is you now entered into a world of evil, of doubt, of complexity, of fragmentation. And Hamin Ha'etz is the question of, did you eat from the Eitz Hadas? Like Hashem's asking Adam if he ate from the Eitz Hadas as if he doesn't know. But the question, as the Nefesh HaChaim explains, is a reflection of the relationship that's now built, which is that if Adam enters into a world of sin by going against the will of Hashem, even if it was Lishma, Hashem now interacts with Adam on a level of, maybe our relationship isn't as close as it seems. Maybe I don't know what's going on in the world. Maybe there is no Hashgacha Pardes. Maybe there is no real intimate relationship, and I'm going to relate to you as you relate to me. So now Hashem says, Hamin Ha'etz, did you eat from the Eitz Hadas? I don't know. And that's Haman. Haman is Amalek. Amalek is the representation of evil, of doubt, of insignificance, of happenstance, of suffix, of is there any meaning and purpose in the world? Because that was born from the sin of eating from the Eitz Hadas. That's the whole story of Purim, is finding the meaning within the meaningless and within the happenstance and all these random events happening. You put them together and you see the Yad Hashem, you see the Hashgacha Pardes. So that's the essence of the sin of the Yetzer Hadaas, is the essence of Purim, and that itself requires at least 100 hours of shiur, 100 hours of lectures. There's no way you can understand that just within a couple minutes. But we've given shiurim on that. You can listen to those recordings. The purpose of the background is for us to now enter into the next stage, which is the story of Kayin and Hevel. The story of Kayin and Hevel is incredible. It's literally incredible. And to understand the story, you have to also understand the fact that Kayin and Hevel represent two different worlds. Kayin was actually, according to Chazal, born in Gan Eden, meaning Kayin comes from that pre-sin state of being perfect. So Kayin did not sin when it comes to Yetzer Hadaas, but he was kind of brought into the complexity of the story where he's born before and then taken out of that world into this world. So he's born into a world of perfection. And yet now he's expected to enter a world of imperfection, whereas Hevel was born into a world of imperfection. So the story of Kayin and Hevel, we'll do the summary and then we'll try to delve into. The story is fascinating. Kayin, he's someone who works the fields. Remember, Gan Eden, the garden. So Kayin works the garden. Hevel is a shepherd. He's dealing with animals. He's not reflecting on a state of where he used to be because he was never in Gan Eden. And Kayin gives karbanos, Hevel gives karbanos. Hashem loves Hevel's karbanos, his sacrifices. And Kayin gets very upset. Hashem tells Kayin, if you do better, things will work out. Kayin gets even more upset, kills Hevel. Punishment is he goes into Golus, ultimately gets killed by Tuval Kayin. Very strange story. The strangest part is when Hashem tells Kayin what happened to Hevel. And Kayin famously tells Hashem, am I my brother's keeper? What's going on? Well, what is this story? So if you think the story of Adam HaRishon is deep, if you think the story of Purim is deep, wait till you try to understand how deep this story is. It's perhaps the most powerful story you'll ever hear. It requires understanding who Kayin was and who Hevel was. So Kayin, remember, Kayin's essence is he's born into a world of perfection. His identity is shleimus, perfection. So in Gan Eden, when you work the field, you're not growing the field, you're maintaining it. Hashem tells Adam to guard the field, not to grow it, but to guard it. Everything already is perfect. Just don't mess it up. When Adam eats from the Yetzer Hadaas, he messes things up. He does it for a very lofty purpose. He wants to put it back together. He wants to grow it himself. He feels like that is his purpose, to lower down from perfection to imperfection so he can become perfect and show his true love for truth, for Hashem, for purpose. Not just to not mess things up, but to become the reflection of putting perfection together. But Kayin is now brought out of that world, not having made that choice. So Kayin identifies still with perfection. Whereas Hevel's born into a world of imperfection and yearns for the same thing that Adam yearns for. Meaning, Kayin, he wants to pretend, and this is the depth, is that Kayin didn't sin. So Kayin's identity is still perfection, so he pretends like everything still is perfect. And if everything's still perfect, I don't need to grow. I don't need to get close to the truth. I am already close to the truth. I don't need to get close to Hashem. I'm already close to Hashem. I don't need to perfect myself. I'm already perfect. I don't need to perfect the world. The world's already perfect. Everything's great. And it's not like Adam, who knew what he was doing by breaking things down, and Adam's the first person who does teshuvah, who goes back to who he used to be, who returns to his true self. Kayin doesn't identify someone who needs to do teshuvah because he doesn't identify someone who sinned. So Kayin's essence is, I'm going to work the field. What's the essence of the field? The essence of the field is you stay in one place. Remember, we're talking about the original state of humanity where the whole world is unseen and uncultivated, and there's no real journey that has been taken. And Kayin says there's no journey that needs to be taken. I'm going to be a farmer. I'm going to stay in place. I'm going to work the field, but I don't need to really work the field. I'll just make sure everything stays the way it needs to be. There's no need to be ambitious, to aspire, to be inspired, to grow, to achieve. I'm just going to stay where I am. And that's why he lives as a farmer. A farmer stays in the same place, works the same field, and there's nowhere to go. Whereas Hevel wants to take the journey towards something more because he's born into an imperfect world where he wants to become perfect. He wants to connect to Hashem. He wants to learn the truth. He wants to become better. He wants to grow. So what does Hevel become? As someone who wants to journey and ascend and transcend their current state of affairs, where they recognize the tragedy, the imperfection, the pain, the nature of that this life is limited. And I want to live a limitless life by connecting to the limitless. I want to live an infinite life by connecting to the infinite. So Hevel becomes a journeyer. What's the essence of a journeyer? That literally is a shepherd. Right? A shepherd is someone who, and remember, we're talking about like a long, long time ago, an undeveloped world. A shepherd is someone who goes into the unknown. You have no idea what's going to happen, what dangers you're going to face. You're not building a fence around a protected place. There's no settling. There's no staying in one place. You're bravely entering in the unknown because you're striving to become someone who yearns to connect to something more. All the Avos, all of the great Jewish leaders, in Tanakh, were all shepherds because it's where you contemplate the nature of existence. It's where you're constantly journeying. You're entering the unknown. You're developing new skills. You're becoming a leader. You're caring for the flock. It's the fundamental undertaking that this life is a journey, a process, and a story. It's not finished. It's in the middle. And I need to take it to the next level. I need to write the next chapter. I need to yearn for something more. So Hevel is someone who recognizes that this world is fleeting. It's Hevel. It's not perfect. Whereas Kayin is someone, even Chava says that, Kayin I acquired. When you acquire something, it's yours, it's settled, it's set. But that's the fundamental friction between Hevel and Kayin, is that when Kayin gives a korban, he's not trying to do the best he can. He's not trying to grow his relationship with him. What is a korban? A korban, the Ramban explains, is karov, to come close, to connect. When you eat food, you connect your soul to your body. If you don't eat food, you grow weak. If you don't eat for long enough, you'll die. Your neshama will leave your body. When you eat food, you connect yourself to your body. So, as the Nefesh HaChaim explains, that's the essence of korbanos. And the Ramban explains this as well, is that the korban, it's what connects. It's literally like feeding the connection between the source of all consciousness and reality and everything and life itself, Hashem, to the physical world, which you can literally say is a physical. It's where Hashem connects this world, just like the neshama connects to the body. Hashem connects to the world. The world is like the body of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak. And then it's you have to abstract that, but that's how the Nefesh HaChaim refers to it, as you're literally connecting the source of reality to the guf of reality. But Kayin doesn't believe that he needs to improve that relationship because in the world of perfection, there is no room for improvement. So Kayin's not giving the best of his crop. Kayin's not trying to build his connection with Hashem. Kayin's not trying to become great. I am great. Hevel understands that he's going from nothing to something, from nothing to everything, from nothing to perfection. He's trying to grow his relationship with Hashem. So what does Kayin do? Kayin's just maintaining his connection. I want to stay alive. I want to stay perfect. Hevel is, I want to become perfect. So Hevel gives the first of his cattle. What's the first? The first is the source, right? That's a bechor. It's the foundation. He's trying to source himself back to his foundation. He's trying to become the best he can be. He's trying to build the ultimate relationship with Hashem. He's trying to become the ultimate manifestation of someone who becomes perfect. And he's striving. Kayin is settled. He's settled physically as a farmer. He's settled in his relationship with himself. He's settled in his relationship with Hashem. And here's where it gets fascinating. Hashem literally tells Kayin, he gives him the ultimate musar. He says literally, if you do better, you'll receive better. It's the most powerful thing, because Kayin gets upset. He's like, why is Hashem loving Hevel's korbanos? He's not loving mine. What's wrong with my korban? Hashem literally tells him, what do you mean what's wrong with your korban? If you do better, you'll receive better. Meaning what? Meaning you're not perfect. You have free will. You've entered into a world and granted, it's not your choice. Just like, you and I, we didn't sin in the Yetzer Hara. We're born into imperfection. We don't choose our starting point. So we don't choose that we're not born to a perfect world. But Hashem is telling Kayin, it's not your choice in what circumstances you were given. It's your choice in how you respond to those circumstances. And yes, granted, you didn't sin in the Yetzer Hara, but you now live in a world of free will, and you need to choose to become perfect, to become better, to become the ultimate version of you, to live a life of truth, to overcome struggle. And if you do better, you'll receive better. Right? Meaning what? Meaning sin is always crouching behind the door. There's always going to be struggle. You're always going to be pushed back now, and you need to push forward. And if you can overcome the temptation that you already have, which is to think that you are perfect, you can live a great life in this world of becoming perfect. And that's the joy that you'll find in life, is using your free will to become more. And it's incredible if you think about it. You have Hevel, who understands he's imperfect, who wants to become perfect, and you have Kayin, who thinks he's perfect, who wants to stay perfect, but his struggle is to recognize that he's not perfect, and he's to fall in love with becoming perfect. Now, what do you respond? What would you respond if Hashem tells you this? If Hashem tells you that right now you're not putting in the effort, if you acknowledge and accept the nature of reality, which is that you're not perfect, you can then accept your purpose, which is to become perfect. Now, you'll never be perfect, but you can enjoy the process of becoming perfect by embracing your purpose in this world. What does Kayin do? The pasuk says that Kayin talks to Hevel and then takes action. Because Kayin has to confront what Hevel is. Hevel is the representation of the truth, which is that we need to become perfect in this world. We're not here to be, we're here to become. We're here to grow. We're here to learn. We're here to improve, to overcome struggle, to use our free will, to embrace the complexity and the evil in this world by transforming the struggle that breakdown and evil represent into the opportunity to overcome it, to express our potential, and to manifest the representation of good and truth, and to connect to Hashem. So first, Kayin talks to Hevel, meaning what? First, he wants to communicate, but he's unable to. Because remember, Kayin at this point thinks he's perfect, and perfection lives outside the realm of process, of time, of becoming. So talking is taking thoughts. Thoughts exist beyond time. The process of communication is taking your thoughts and turning them into words, into dibur, into speech. Right? When you speak, you're taking something which is and you're breaking it down into process, into time, and you throw out one word at a time, and then the person receives it, and then they give you back speech, and there's a process, there's a give and take. Whereas Kayin still doesn't know how to live in the world of process, of becoming, of building, of communicating. And the communication breaks down. And Kayin can't communicate within this process of time and space, so he reverts to the next best thing, which is he takes action. And what does he do? He kills Hevel. Why? And this is one of the deepest things you'll ever hear. What does Hevel want more than anything? Hevel wants to go to Gan Eden. Hevel wants to connect to Hashem. Hevel wants to become perfect. Hevel wants to ascend, to yearn for more perfection, to yearn to become angelic, to yearn to be otherworldly. That's the fundamental human drive, is to want to become infinite, to become limitless, to become ever expanding, to know and become everything. And that's what Hevel's doing. He's becoming better and better and better. He's growing and growing and growing. And Kayin, meanwhile, is just trying to stay in place. So what does Kayin do? He kills Hevel. But what's killing? There's no such thing as death. You are a mind, a consciousness, a soul. Soul doesn't die. The body contains the soul. It limits the soul to being in this world, but also enables the soul to express its potential in this world through the body. Kayin kills Hevel. What's Kayin doing? Kayin is literally giving Hevel what he wanted. When you die, where do you go? You go to Olam HaNeshamas. What's Olam HaNeshamas? As the Ramban and many others explain, it's Gan Eden. It's back to where Kayin came from, back to where Hevel wants to return to, even though Kayin thinks he's still there. Hevel never got that experience. He wants to go there. When Kayin kills Hevel, he doesn't kill him. What does he do? He removes the connection between body and soul. What happens then? The soul goes back to its source, which is what? Which is Olam HaNeshamas. Which is what? Which is Gan Eden. Which is what? Which is where Hevel is yearning to go. That's his whole mission, to become perfect, to go back to his root, to connect to Hashem in the deepest possible way. So what is Kayin trying to basically say? I'm doing Hevel a chesed. I'm giving him what he wants. I'm giving him perfection. I'm allowing him to return to his root. And this is where it gets powerful beyond words. Why did Kayin actually kill Hevel? Because there's two ways to respond to our deepest yearning in life. Our deepest yearning in life is to live a life of truth, of idealism, of inspiration, of wanting to become everything that we know we're capable of becoming, everything we know Hashem created us for. And we have two options when it comes to life. One is to embrace the truth, to embrace that idealism, and it will judge us because we'll never be good enough for it. But we can yearn to get closer to it. And the other option is to kill it, to destroy it so that we are not reminded of the fact that we are nowhere near where we should be, where we want to be, and who we really are. And those who embrace the ideal will never be good enough for it unless they realize they're supposed to get closer to it, but they'll never get there. But those who are so burdened by the ideal, by the truth, they will block it out from their consciousness so they're not reminded of the failure that they currently are. And remember, the prelude to this is that Hashem literally tells Kayin, he gives him the ultimate musar, and he gives him the ultimate revelation of the truth, which is that you are not perfect. And Hevel's not perfect. But you have to be like Hevel, which is to yearn to become perfect. And he literally just tells him the cold, hard truth, which is that if you embrace your desire to grow, your need to grow, you can become better just like Hevel's becoming better. And you can get closer to me just like Hevel's getting closer to me. And you become more aligned with truth and purpose and reality just like Hevel's becoming closer and more aligned with truth, reality, and purpose. But Kayin can't handle the truth. And he literally cannot handle it. So what does he do? He gets rid of the reminder of the truth. He gets rid of Hevel. Hevel is the reminder that you're not in Gan Eden, that you're not perfect, you're not where you need to be. And he kills Hevel. He kills the reminder that he's not who he is supposed to be. He kills the reminder that you're not in Gan Eden. He kills the reminder that you are not perfect. He kills the reminder that you have an entire life of free will, choice, struggle, effort, and willpower to become perfect. And what does he do? He then lies to himself and pretends that he's actually doing a chesed to Hevel. I'm not killing Hevel. I'm not getting rid of the reminder of the truth which makes me feel horrible about my existence. I'm just giving Hevel what he wants. Which is brilliant. It's mind-bogglingly brilliant. Is that the greatest lie is to lie to yourself and pretend that you're doing the truth. It's brilliant. It's instead of living a life of truth, you live a life of absolute sheker, absolute lie, and you pretend like you're living a life of truth. I'm doing a chesed for Hevel, giving him what he wants, so that I can get what I want, which is that he can be perfect just like I'm perfect. As opposed to the recognition that Hevel's trying to become perfect, and I should try to become perfect. Allow Hevel to quote-unquote be perfect, go back to Gan Eden, so I don't have to be reminded every day that I'm not in Gan Eden, that I'm not perfect. And here's the one of the most incredibly brilliant layers. And by the way, people do this all the time. They create a lie, which is a bubble of an existence, which allows them to live within the absolute lie that they're living in by pretending that they're living a life of truth. And people do this in their marriage, they do this in their health, they do this in their connection with Hashem, in how they live a life of Torah mitzvahs, they do this in every category of their existence, in their business, they do this where nothing makes sense. It's an absolute lie. Everything is completely falling apart, but you can live within the lie by pretending it's the truth. You just have to get rid of the reminders that it's a lie. And then you can feed yourself the lie and convince yourself it's the truth. And you know it's a lie, but you don't have to be reminded about it. And if other people are reinforcing the lie, we can all pretend it's the truth. It's the most incredible story. And here's the deepest part, is that what Kayin actually just did was he actualized Adam's sin. Remember, Kayin did not sin in Neitzadas. Adam did. But when Adam violated the one thing that Hashem told him not to do, when he ate from Neitzadas, he actually brought death to the world. As the Ramban explains, before Adam ate from Neitzadas, there was no sin in the world. There was no death in the world. Everything was perfect. Everything was infinitized. The human body was in a state where it wouldn't break down. Death is only because the body breaks down. It's limited. It's mortal. But if the body was perfect, it wouldn't break down. It would be able to contain the infinite soul without decaying and breaking down. Once Adam ate from Neitzadas, we became mortal. We became limited. But no one died yet. Kayin did not sin from Neitzadas, but he was the one who brought the actualization of Adam's sin to fruition. He brought the first actual death of a human being to the world. And that's brilliant. And here's the deepest layer, which is that death is actually what gives meaning, purpose, and urgency to life. Because if you're perfect, there's no real purpose of life or death, because nothing happens, nothing goes anywhere. But in a world where you need to become perfect, the reason to actually try every single day is because you have a limited amount of time in this world. And the urgency and meaning of every day is because it dies and because there is death. So because this day is dying, it's going to disappear. And because your life is limited, you will disappear. The only thing you have is what you extract and actualize from time. And the meaning and urgency and power of existence is not life, but it's life in relation to the fact that there is going to be death. And what's fascinating is that Kayin's killing Hevel not only actualized Adam's sin, not only brought death to the world, but in a deep sense, it's what enabled Kayin to see that life and his life in this world is limited. And it's, in a deep sense, the impetus he needed to try to actualize his own potential, which is to realize you're not perfect and to want to become perfect, to want to become better, to want to become more godlike, to actualize your Tzal Elokim. And this is the deepest thing, because when Kayin kills Hevel, his initial response to Hashem is basically one of denial. He's denying responsibility, and he's denying the nature of existence as it is. He basically says, am I my brother's keeper? What does that mean? What it means is that I want to be in this world because I'm perfect. Hevel wants to leave this world. He thinks he's supposed to become perfect. Who am I to stop Hevel from getting what he wants? Am I my brother's keeper? Am I supposed to contain him and keep him in this world? He doesn't want to be in this world. He wants to connect to you. He wants to become perfect. He wants to go back to Gan Eden. So am I supposed to keep him here? I gave him what he wanted. He wanted to leave. I helped him leave. And that's really like the deepest form of living a life of sheker, of lying, is where we cannot acknowledge the lie. Is there a deep seed of truth in everything that Kayin did? Of course. Is there an absolute sheker at the center and the foundation? Of course. And what's the root? That's the key. The root wasn't Kayin trying to help Hevel. The root was Kayin trying to get rid of the reminder that the truth requires you to shatter the paradigm that you currently have in order to align yourself with the truth. And instead of aligning himself with the truth, he tried to shatter and get rid of the truth so he can live within the lie that he wanted to live within. And the ideal relationship between Kayin and Hevel would have been powerful because Kayin would have been that foundation. Right? Kayin lived in Gan Eden. He understood the goal. And if Kayin would have embraced the fact that we're no longer in Gan Eden, he could have been someone who was grounded in this world, a farmer, but aspiring to become great. And Hevel would have been the one that was the inspiration, who never got to be in Gan Eden, who really, inspires Kayin to take the journey of Hishtalmus, of becoming perfect. You're not shalem. You don't live in a world of shlemus, of perfection. Hishtalmus is becoming perfect. And ideally, they could have built off of each other and built something amazing, but Kayin rejected his role because he thought it was beneath him. What do you mean I have to become perfect? I am perfect. And by the way, this is the essence of Torah. This is the essence of the relationship between Yitzchak and Yishmael, Yaakov and Esav, Klal Yisrael and Amalek. It's always these polarities which completely contradict each other. But there's an ideal of a deep relationship that could actually bring out the potential of one another. The most powerful is Yaakov and Esav, which really is. It's the same thing with the Jews when it comes to Yisrael and the Yevanim, the Klal Yisrael and the Greeks. There's always this polarity of Yaftel the Efes V'Yishkan B'Olei Shem, of ideally, as Chazal say, Yaakov and Esav are supposed to be partners in that relationship. There's always that partnership that breaks down because one doesn't accept their role. One does not accept their role. And Kayin did not accept his role. He said, I don't want to become perfect. I want to be perfect. And what was Kayin's punishment? Kayin's punishment was Galus. Now Galus, why wasn't he killed? Right? When you kill someone, you get Mida Gan Mida. There's a level of shogeg involved in Kayin's act. Number one, because it was the first case of murder. Number two is there's a deep part of Kayin that wasn't doing this maliciously, trying to kill Hevel. He was doing this because he wanted to kill the part of himself that wanted to become perfect, and he also wanted to give Hevel what he wanted, and he wanted to get... There's so many layers here in terms of what it was. So instead of being killed Mida K'neged Mida, Kayin was sent into Galus. What is Galus? Galus, by definition, is two things. It's a separation from an ideal state into an unideal state. So as the Maharal explains, when you go into Galus, you leave your ideal place, you're no longer sovereign and in control over where you are, and things become scattered. So creation of the world itself, from perfection to imperfection, was Galus. When Kayin killed Hevel, Galus. But what's Galus? Galus really just puts you out of your place so you can journey back to your true place. So Galus actually is the journey towards the truth, the journey into the unknown. Lech lecha. Avraham was literally sent into Galus. Leave your home. Leave your father's house. Go into Galus, but find your true home. It's the journey into the unknown. It's the journey to the emes, to the truth. It's the vulnerable journey to pick up all the pieces and to try to create something more perfect. And the punishment for Kayin's unwillingness to go on the journey to the truth is that he had to go on the journey to the truth. Kayin's unwillingness to go on the journey of becoming more perfect is he had to go on the journey of becoming more perfect. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And what was Kayin's response? Kayin's response is one of fear. Which is what? Which is, now that I've sunken so low, the animals are going to kill me. Now, why? What? You have to understand. Why are the animals going to kill me? So there's many layers here. Right? What's Kayin's deeper fear? So there's a couple levels. Number one is that the animals are going to kill me because they're going to see me as an animal. The animals are going to kill me because I just killed Hevel, so Mida connected me that I should be killed. But there's a deeper layer here. Because what's the essence of Karbanos? The essence of Karbanos, remember, Kayin gave Karbanos in terms of giving his food. But Hevel gave Karbanos, he gave animal Karbanos. What's the essence of a Karban? The Ramban explains, and many explain. That's the essence of Karbanos is connecting the root to the expression, connecting Hashem to the physical world. When you eat food, you connect your soul to your body. When the world eats, when we give Karbanos, we connect Hashem to this world. The idea of giving a Karban is that the animal itself, the neshama, the soul of the animal, is also now able to be used to connect Hashem to the world, and that's the ultimate uplifting, being the Kadesh, the soul of the animal. The essence of everything in this world is to be used for the truth and to become a reflection of the truth. For an animal to be used as a Karban is for it to be used in the most lofty possible way. It's the same thing where ideally we're not supposed to eat animals, but even once we're supposed to eat animals, the Gemara says only tzaddikim should eat animals, because when you eat an animal, what you do with the energy from the animal is a transformation of the animal's potential. And if you live life of MS with that energy, that neshama potential, you're transforming the animal into a reflection of the manifestation, actualization of MS, of the truth. But when Kayin killed Hevel, he killed the ability. It's multiple levels. When Kayin killed Hevel, he took Hashem away from this world, and he took the ability for animals to be uplifted by Hevel out of this world. So what he did literally is he stole the truth and upliftance and purpose from animals. And there's a very deep idea here, which we're not going to talk about right now, but animals used to be at a higher level. Remember, the Nachash used to be on a level of humanity. The Nachash talked, it uses the Lashon of Arom, which is the same Lashon it uses for Adam Harishon and Chava post the sin. So the level of the Nachash before the sin is actually the same level of humans in a deep way after the sin. And animals fell after the sin to becoming non-free will, non-thinking, non-intelligent beings. And humanity fell from being perfect to imperfect, where we have free will. So, in a very deep sense, Kayin stole the ability of animals to climb back up towards being higher and being closer to the truth than they were after the sin of Adam Rishon. So, in a very deep sense, why would the animals kill Kayin? Number one is Kayin is more animal-like now. Kayin is lower. That's the very simple pshat. Number two is Goel Hadam. Goel Hadam is din. It's basically redeeming it's if you killed someone, you deserve to die, and the people who you took this life away from, the family has responsibility to basically create justice by taking your life out of this world. That's the whole idea of Mida K'neged Mida. Very, very deep and complicated topic. Definitely don't have time to go into it right now. But that's the concept of Goel Hadam as a redeemer of blood, is that the truth of you having violated the truth and taken a life out of this world is that your life needs to be taken out of this world. And the people that are going to do it are the people that you stole this life from, which is the family or the people closest to the person that was killed. And in a deep sense, Kayin took Hevel away from the world. He took the MS away from the world, which is, by the way, in a very deep sense, you can even go further. Kayin took Hevel away from the world. He killed him. The MS now, Mida K'neged Mida, is that the world should take Kayin away from the world as well. Should kill Kayin as well. And the way the Psukim talk about it is that Hevel's blood was soaked up from the earth. So the earth and the animals would be the ones who would seek a true redemption for that spilled blood. In a very deep sense, animals in particular, because Hevel was the one who was helping animals be used to connect back to Hashem. So the full story is that the next stage of the story should be the world taking Kayin's soul out of this world, and the ones who would do that would be the world itself and the animals in particular. And it's very strange, because if you don't think of it this way, it's like, why would Kayin be scared that the animals are going to kill him? Like, why does he tell Hashem, like, don't do this to me, the animals are going to kill me? It's not just because he's becoming an animal, so they're going to kill him. It's because the animals are going to seek out justice for the injustice that you did. Just like in a civilized society, if you kill someone, the midah keneged midah is that you are put to death. Now, practically, it doesn't actually really ever happen in Beis Din for many, many different reasons. But in absolute truth, nekama is truth. Midah keneged midah is truth. In general, the reason why a human being cannot basically carry out a nekama is because, number one, you don't know all the particularities and the details, so you don't know if you're actually manifesting the truth with your action of nekama, of trying to get revenge or avenging that which was done. Number two is that the only way to fully embody the truth of nekama is to do it for the sake of truth. And most people who try to get revenge, they do it for their own personal revenge because they're angry, and that's not truth. That's ego. So when it comes to here, we're talking about animals who don't really have free will. So we're not talking about ego. So the truth would be to carry out the truth, which is that Kayin should lose his life. And Kayin literally begs for his life. And Hashem's response is twofold. And this is the most powerful thing. It's the most powerful thing. And you have to understand this. Hashem tells Kayin, basically, and the power of these words is beyond, it's beyond understanding how deep these words are. He doesn't tell Kayin yes, but. He tells Kayin, number one, you are not an animal. Because remember, Kayin went from thinking he's perfect to realizing he's not perfect. But the first stage that he goes to from realizing that he's perfect and not perfect is maybe if I'm not perfect, I'm literally lost. I'm an animal. I'm done. Hashem says, no, you're not an animal. You're human. You're limited. You're challenged. You have struggles. You mess up. But you're not an animal. Meaning what? Meaning you're still above that. And not only are you above that, but the animals know that as well. Everyone knows that. You still have potential to become perfect. And so many people, when they mess up, they identify as the mess up to the point where they think there is no hope. I can't get better. I'm done. It's not that I messed up, it's that I am a mess up. It's not that I did something wrong, it's that I am something wrong. And the essence of being human is recognizing that you have free will and that your goal is to become better, but in the journey of becoming better, you're going to mess up. That's the nature of the process. So animals, let's think about this. Originally, Adam Harishon was above free will. Then there were the state of those who had free will, which we'll talk about the original animals. And then there's the current level of animals, which are beings who are conscious but have no free will. When Adam said he went from perfect to one who has free will, a combination of perfection, imperfection, good and bad, spiritual, physical, infinite, finite, kind of that synthesized combination of complexity and fragmented reality. Kayin thought he stayed perfect. Once he realized he's imperfect, he thought he was the state of an animal, which is someone who has no free will. Hashem's telling him, no, you messed up, but you're still human. You have free will. You have the ability to become more, to become perfect. And just for the record, this distinction became blurred after Kayin, which led to the Dor HaMabul, where human beings became so low that the distinction between human and animal became so indistinguishable that Hashem changed the structure of the ideals and rules of reality to the point where Hashem allowed us to eat meat, as many of the Baalei Machshava and Achronim and Poskim explain. The reason why we were allowed to eat meat is to reinforce the distinction between us and animals. The only reason you're allowed to eat animals is to remind you you're not an animal, and that you're here to uplift the world, not to equate yourself with the world. And that's the whole idea of tzaddikim should eat animals, as opposed, and that's why, being a vegetarian is an ideal that is not the norm, and it's a very complicated topic, because yes, you're not supposed to eat animals, but we are supposed to eat animals to remind us that we're not animals, but in an ideal world, we still wouldn't eat animals. So it's a very interesting state of reality in terms of the ideal, the reality, and living by an ideal, and whether you should strive for the ideal or just understand the ideal while still living, because Ein Simcha El Basar Yayin, and Basar is such a fundamental part of Judaism. But at the same time, there's a state of idealism of recognizing that within animals is an actual innate potential to become more, and that even so, we are above that. As in, if you want to take it a really, really deep in terms of the state of current environmentalism and animal understanding, the goal of humanity is to get back to a state of perfection. The goal of animals is to get back to a state of higher levels of consciousness, where animals, the reason why animals are pets is because they've evolved to become more and more human-like, getting back to a state of higher and higher levels of consciousness and free will. But human beings are supposed to go higher and higher, not lower and lower, right? So very, very deep topic. But the idea here is Hashem reminding Kayin that you're not an animal. You have free will. But here's the deeper statement. Hashem says, not only are you not an animal, not only are they not going to be the Goel Hadam and they're not going to kill you, but you can be your own Goel Hadam. You can redeem humanity itself by going on the journey of becoming perfect. And that's really Kayin's journey, is to go into Golus and to become perfect. And here's the most fascinating thing, is that Kayin goes on this journey, and yet Mida Keneged Mida actually still occurs at the end of the story. Because what ends up happening is that Kayin is actually later killed by his own grandson once he finishes his journey and does teshuvah. Meaning what? Meaning, once he goes on the journey and becomes the person that he's supposed to become, he goes on that journey into the unknown. He has children. They have children. His grandson's name is Tuval Kayin. You know something very similar there. Tuval Kayin is seemingly a combination of Hevel and Kayin, right? The ultimate ideal of what Kayin and Hevel were supposed to be. And Tuval Kayin is literally the one who kills Kayin, as in the ideal was Hevel and Kayin to be synthesized. Kayin kills Hevel. Mida Keneged Mida, Kayin's supposed to be killed. But instead, Kayin goes on a teshuvah journey, becomes the person he's supposed to become. He brings ultimately into the world Tuval Kayin, who's a synthesis of, seemingly synthesis of Hevel and Kayin, who then does the Mida Keneged Mida and kills Kayin. But Kayin's murder of Hevel was shogeg, in a sense. That's why he goes into Galus. Kayin's own murder, as in when Kayin is killed, was also one of shogeg. His grandson thought that he was an animal. Kayin thought he was an animal. And Hashem says, you're not an animal. He went on a journey of becoming not an animal, becoming human, becoming the greatest version of himself that he could be. At the end of his life, he is still seen as being, as in the moment when he is killed, is reflection of the Goel Hadam, of the redemption, of the truth, of in that moment when Kayin did something animalistic, they reflected his lower self. And Tuval Kayin, the synthesis of Hevel and Kayin seemingly, is the one who kills the Kayin that deserved to be killed back then, once Kayin was given the opportunity of time to do teshuvah. And it's really, it's fascinating in like every single level of analysis. And Hashem gave Kayin the opportunity to do teshuvah before the Mida Keneged Mida was actually carried out. And I mean, there's lots of other things that could, that deserve analysis also, which is, Tuval Kayin was actually the first person to create weapons of war. And the essence of war is combat, is murder, but also really it's the furthering of truth, as in the idea of war is not supposed to be done with weapons, but with ideas. And the real war is the ideological war of trying to spread the truth. And most nations of old would carry out a physical bloodshed to conquer a society to spread their truth. That was the Hellenization concept of Alexander the Great. We have wisdom, we're going to kill the armies of our enemies, take over the population, and spread our truth. And the real notion of war is actually a combination of Kayin and Hevel, of Hevel in terms of the growth in spiritual terms, and Kayin in terms of stability in physical terms. The aspect of conquering, of literally physically conquering and building that stability, but then spiritually trying to spread your wisdom, is a very interesting concept that's born out of Tuval Kayin. But Tuval Kayin, again, did not use his weapons to kill people. He used his weapons to hunt for food, which is another topic that deserves being talked about. So these are all fascinating topics. But the fact that Tuval Kayin killed Kayin thinking he was an animal, and literally it's his own grandson that does that mida keneged mida. Fascinating beyond fascinating. Again, each of these topics require at least a full share for a lecture. But the idea is like this. The idea is that what comes from this is that Adam and Chava didn't have Shais. And Shais, Noach comes from Shais. Why? Because Shais now represents, in a deep sense, the synthesis of Kayin and Hevel. You have Kayin, someone who believes they're not from this world, but gets too stuck in this world. You have Hevel, someone who's stuck in this world, but wants to connect to a higher reality. And the ideal was for them to synthesize with each other. But Kayin kills Hevel, meaning he gets killed. And then Shais represents that synthesis. Just like Shem is a synthesis of Cham and Yefes. Just like Yaakov, Yisrael really is the synthesis of Yaakov and Esav. And really the synthesis of Avram and Yitzchak. There's always that ideal synthesis. And the essence of Klal Yisrael is embodying that true synthesis of all values, of all wisdom, of all purpose, and living life of emes in this world. And that's really why Chazal say that we are put into Galus to extract every spark of truth, to synthesize it into a oneness so that we can embody the absolute holistic nature of truth, to connect to the highest level of striving for perfection and connecting to Hashem in the deepest possible way. So it's the most powerful story, one of the most powerful stories by far I've ever really delved into, because it's the story of life. Because there's nothing like being inspired by the truth, nothing like being inspired by your role model. There's nothing like being inspired by the hero, a Talmid Chacham, a Gadol, a person who has an amazing marriage, amazing health, who changes the world, who impacts, who inspires, who's confident and brilliant, and who's doing amazing things, building an amazing family, doing amazing things in this world. But many people will either create a distance by saying that person is different and unique, I can't be like that, or they'll try to kill the inspiration and the truth and the hero by saying they're not really as great as they seem to be. And there's so many ways to create the distance between us and the truth, because if we don't create the distance, we're reminded by the fact that we need to actually embody it ourselves. And there's nothing more difficult than being reminded that we're supposed to be better and we're not better. We deeply yearn to go on that journey ourselves. We want to be the role model, the tzaddik, the tzaddikas, the person who strives for truth. We want to be the best version of ourselves. We want to be the best that we can be. We want truth. We want to become the truth. We want to connect to Hashem. We want to become infinite and boundless and limitless. And we want to become the best we can be. We want to surpass every limitation that we have. But every time we see people doing it, we're reminded of the fact that we're not there yet. And it's the struggle of going on the journey. It's the fact that maybe we can't do it. Maybe we're going to fail. Maybe we're not good enough. Maybe it's just not on the cards for us. And what's depressing beyond anything else is being reminded that we're not the person we want to be. And so what we do is we try to create a distance between us and our role models, us and our ideals, us and the truth, us and Hashem. Because if we make it infinitely distant, or if we pretend that we're already there, or if we destroy the ideal itself, we no longer feel the weight of the ideal and of the truth. But instead of killing idealism, instead of killing the truth, we need to give ourselves permission to strive towards it without ever needing to have achieved it. And this is the essence of the lesson, of the wisdom from Kayin's story, is you need the ideal. The ideal is always impossible. It's larger than life. You'll never get there. If you got there, you wouldn't be here anymore. But if you can keep the ideal, but also keep your feet grounded to where you are and enjoy the process of becoming more, the role model, the ideal, the truth, it becomes that which gives infinite significance and meaning to life itself. Because what ends up happening is that you get to enjoy the entire journey of life while always striving for more. And you can say, I'm perfect the way I am. You can strive for more, but hate who you are. And there's only a matter of time before you give up striving, because you cannot live in life hating who you are while trying to become more. You'll either stop growing and hate who you are, or you'll stop growing and fall in love with who you are and pretend like you're perfect. The only way to journey towards greatness and to truth is to embrace the ideal, embrace the fact that you're not there, and to fall in love with the journey of growing and becoming more and more and more and more. And that's the essence of Purim. It's the essence of life. It's the essence of the story of Kayin and Hevel. It's the essence of what happened. It's the story of Adam Rishon. And it's the greatest secret of living a life of striving while never, ever, ever falling into the illusion that you're already perfect. So we should be inspired to grow, to strive for perfection and greatness and truth, and enjoy every single step of the way.